Hey everybody, Quantum back here again with some more Shimmering Skies gameplay, and we have a pretty exciting matchup in my opinion for you here, where I'm using the new Amber Ruby Sensor Core deck that I kind of showcased a little bit in my meta deck video for Shimmering Skies, one of the decks that I said I wanted to try out and post some content for you guys with. And my friend here is going to be using an upgraded version for set 5 of Amethyst Steel. They are on the play, so they're going to start off with an Inked Yzma and play a Chernobog Followers. Now what I will say is, I think this deck is actually pretty good just from this one match that I played with it. But I do think I made some deck building errors, which I'll cover a little bit later as we come into them. And if you watch this match, I'll try to call them out, but I basically make like 10 misplays. So despite all those misplays, this match is still very competitive, and I could have won a lot easier, I think, if I'd made better decisions. And again, I have a deck profile video which will be available to members first, where I cover version 1 of this deck and some of the upgrades and lessons learned from this match, leading into version 2, which I think is better. Anyways, I end up playing the queen on turn 1 because I wanted to bait out a Baboom, and sure enough the opponent Babooms the queen because they don't want me to shift queen on 2, which is the correct play. In this situation, you can see me thinking a lot, and I make a misplay number 1 here in inking the Sensor Core and playing a Mulan. There's absolutely no reason to do this because the Mulan is just a vulnerable threat to more steel removal in this particular scenario. I would have been way better off inking the Julieta because I have a turn 3 play in the Moana instead, and then playing out the Queen Sensor Core, which would start gaining me passive lore. I don't need the card draw engine for that Sensor Core right away, but if you think about it, the Sensor Core is a card draw engine, right? It generates advantage. The Julieta is not a card draw engine. It's a one-time heal and draw 1. It's basically a Maleficent for Amber, and I have to have a damage character in order to do that. The Rapunzel is a card draw engine because it nets me multiple cards. So here you can see me valuing the Julieta on 3, which is really just an underdeveloped statted card for the 3. I would have been way better off challenging this Lawrence basically by putting the Moana on board, which is a 3/4 body that quests for 2, right? And then just leave the leave the Mulan damage, or not even have the Mulan played yet, played on turn 4, when I would actually potentially threaten a shift of the Mulan here. The reason why I ended up healing the Mulan and then questing with it is because I wanted the Lawrence to attack it so that I could brawl the Lawrence away. So again, another misplay in that I didn't think through that, oh yeah, you're on purple, you're going to be able to bounce back your Lawrence to reset the damage and protect it. So now my brawl is useless. So I just lost my Mulan and I didn't end up playing out my brawl. So I just, just completely way behind the 8 ball here. Just so many misplays early on that really puts me behind. And now the opponent has a 3/7 Mim Elephant on board. I eventually do develop a Moana, but again, it's a turn later, so I end up in the same place I basically am. And yeah, just looking back, I'm disgusted at this gameplay of myself, man. Like, just cannot believe I made so many bad mistakes. To be fair, and this is not an excuse, because again, when you're playing matches, you need to be 100% focused. It's how you have success in this game, because as you can see, these slight misplays will cost you games and cost you critical situations. But if you are distracted, right, if you're looking at a video or paying attention to what's around you, or paying attention to a baby or something, like, you are going to make a lot of mistakes. So just keep that in mind. Anyways, we do get saved a little bit by our top decks, and we are able to get a Sensor Core, which is pretty good, and then we're going to be able to play out yet another Moana. So this Sensor Core will generate passive lore, but the opponent is on steel. They could be on Benja's, Beast Hard-Headed, which is unlikely, or the new Simba coming out in Shimmering Skies for steel that also allows you to banish a location or an item. So yeah, the opponent's on 6, and I'm like, oh, is the Simba going to come down? No, it's a Rabbit and then a Smee for follow-up, and then the Mim Fox will trade out into one of the Moanas. So that's good for us. We ready up our cards, gain a lore off the Sensor Core, and draw into a Mulan. So this board state is kind of interesting. We're going to proc the Sensor Core for 2 and hopefully hit an inkable card here, and we do, but it's not a princess. And by the way, in the deck profile, I do mention that this deck is 40 princess and queens and only 20 non-princess and queens, which includes characters, items, actions, etc. So statistically, I should be hitting every 2 out of 3 times on the Sensor Core. So unfortunately, missing here means that I will be forced to ink the Mulan if I wanted to play out the Rapunzel here now. But instead, I just opt to play out the second Moana and quest with my already on field Moana and pass turn, because the Smee can't take out the Moana that's exerted now by itself. It's going to need to throw the Rabbit or another rush character into it. So this Moana is a decent stat body that quests for 2, a good decent aggro threat on 3 despite being uninkable. But I think just drawing all 3 uninkables in my hand in the opening really just like hurt me, and I opted to cut her from the list, but she is a really good card. The opponent does indeed end up dropping the Simba, outing the Sensor Core. Yeah, but you know, at this point, I think I'm just too far behind to do anything, right? The saving grace here, as always, when you have good statted bodies on board, like this Moana, which is why it synergizes well with this deck, I can throw it into the Smee, and with the 4 willpower, I have 1 extra willpower where I can put 3 damage on this Moana, have it survive, and then heal it up with Rapunzel for the full 3, which will allow me to draw 3 cards, right? If this card was only a 3/3 body, I couldn't do that. So thankfully, I'm able to take out the Smee, heal up the Moana, draw 3, and now I'm just like, well, for all those misplays, I'm actually not in too bad of a position. We're going to end up taking out the other Rabbit because, you know, Rabbit is, you have to deal with it at some point, otherwise it's going to lead to infinite card advantage. So yeah, they do get the draw off the Rabbit, but now we have 6 questing pressure on board. The opponent does have this big Simba, and then fortunately they're going to be on 5 cards, but then again, so are we. Our hand, though, is kind of underwhelming. We'd likely want to see another Rapunzel or the big shift Mulan in order to start locking things down by shifting onto the small Mulan we have in hand. But again, playing up against Steel is a little bit difficult in this particular matchup because they have a lot of ways to just out the already damaged Mulan if you're trying to shift on it. You could argue that I shouldn't ink anything here, so this is potentially yet another misplay because putting a queen on board here just opens me up to getting Grab Your Swords, where my Moana that's already damaged for 2 is going to get outed by a Grab Your Swords along with this queen. Thankfully, the opponent doesn't have it or just opts not to play it. They're instead going to crash Simba into the damaged Moana and then bounce back the Simba with a Mim Fox, so yet another Mim Fox, and take out my other Moana here, and then develop a Lawrence after that. So, you know, we're on 6 ink. We did miss an ink drop, I believe, earlier. But, you know, with only a Lawrence on board, and I think now 3 cards in the opponent's hand, we have 4. We're not feeling too bad. Unfortunately, you know, I make another misplay here. Like, I play the Mulan for 1. I think I was definitely distracted here, and I don't play the Julieta. There's no reason not to play Julieta and heal the Mulan here and draw a card. So the opponent uses Lawrence and takes out the Queen, and then drops an Elsa and instantly outs my Mulan, which they would not be able to do because Elsa is a 2/5 body if I would have Julieta healed the Mulan. And I had 5 ink available to me. Why didn't I do it? Now I draw another Julieta, and these Julietas are just dead, right? Because they have a evasive Elsa on board that I'm forced now to use Brawl on, so that Elsa goes 2 for 1, and I just quest with the Rapunzel. I ink a queen, the 2-drop rush queen, because it's not doing anything, and just pass turn because, again, these Julietas aren't doing anything. The opponent has a Baboom and uses Snake to out the Rapunzel. So, like, you guys can see, I would be in such a better situation if, like, I just played correctly. I probably would have, like, you know, like, it's just mind-boggling to me how bad I played this match. But, you know, no shame, I guess. I'm showing you guys that, you know, I'm just a bad player, I guess. I don't know. We draw a Queen Sensing Weakness, which isn't necessarily the worst. The opponent sings Friends, and then Zeus is the Queen Sensing Weakness. So, like, yeah, it's just at a state in the game now where my opponent's going to catch up to me very quickly. They go to 7 lore. They end up dumping their whole hand, or they might have 2 cards in hand there. But yet another Mim Elephant comes in. Or is this the first Mim Elephant? I don't even remember. This card is a menace. This Mim Elephant, being a 3/7 body, is just, like, ridiculous. We draw a Shift Mulan, right, the big one, and we just have to hard cast it. The opponent quests for 3, goes to 10, and I'm just like, okay, please don't out this Mulan. I mean, what can we do here? We throw it into the Lawrence and put 2 damage on the Lawrence so that we can proc heal with Julieta. Okay, the Brawl, like, again, this is just not a great interaction. So, like, I'm putting myself in these bad situations, which make this deck look terrible. But, I mean, at least it's potentially some kind of solution. We get 4 damage on the Mulan because the Lawrence is a 4/4 body. Now it's a 0/4 now that it has 2 damage on it. We Julieta heal for 2, which now means that the Elephant can't take out the Mulan by itself because the Elephant will only deal 3 damage, putting 5 total damage on the Mulan, making it survive by 1. We proc heal the Mulan with the Julieta and draw a card. And we draw into a Shift Mulan again, which is actually really interesting here. And then we're able to brawl away the Lawrence. So again, just bad card advantage right now, but it's what we have to do given all of our misplays. The opponent runs their Elephant into the Mulan, plays out a Pascal, plays out a Snake to bounce back the Pascal, and then replays the Pascal. And I think they pass with 2 cards in hand. So we ready things up, and we're going to draw a card. Now I have a couple of decisions to make. The Sensor Core here is really interesting because if I can hit off of the Sensor Core, I can actually play out my whole hand next turn, I believe. Or I can just opt to wipe the whole board and lose my Mulan in the process. So there's a couple of different lines here that I think I'm thinking through. But it really depends on me hitting off of the Sensor Core in order to get another inkable Princess or Queen to ink. Or what do I do here? Let's see. What is the right play? Or maybe it's next turn I'm thinking of. Maybe I'm jumping the gun here. Shifting the Mulan and throwing it into the elephant would cause me to lose my Mulan, but it would also result in... Okay, I think I see what happens. Okay, never mind. Play the Julieta and draw an uninkable. I needed to draw an inkable. That's what it was. That's what this sequence was. Okay. Because now I have either 1 or 2 damage on the Mulan, which means I can shift the other Mulan. If I would have drawn an inkable, then I didn't have to ink this Sensor Core, and I don't want to ink the Sensor Core, so I play it out here. But if this Namari was an inkable card, I could have shift 5 the Mulan on top of the existing Mulan, run it into the Mim Elephant. Do I have 3 damage still on the Mulan or 2? I can't even see. Oh my goodness, this is bad that I can't see. But anyways, I would have been able to run into the Mim Elephant. It already has 2 damage on it, so 5 more damage onto the Elephant would have taken out the Elephant, deal with a big threat. The Elephant is a big threat. And then I would have been able to deal like 5 damage to the Pascal and the Snake, which would have wiped out the opponent's board. But because I'm not able to hit an inkable and not willing to commit my Sensor Core into the Inkwell, now my opponent at the start of their turn is moving the 2 damage onto my Mulan from their Elephant. They're going to be able to quest with everything, go to 13. So yet another just like, again, bad deck building decision to put Namari in, and just, I guess, bad decision making. Maybe I should have just inked the Sensor Core there. I mean, at least we hit off of it, but the opponent plays yet another Elephant and then a Snake to bounce back the Pascal. And then they pass turn. So we gain a lore off the Sensor Core. We draw yet another Sensor Core, which is like pretty good here, I guess, right, for the passive lore gain. If the opponent didn't Simba the first Sensor Core, I'm pretty sure we would have won the game by now. Anyways, we pay 2 to activate Sensor Core, reveal a Lady Tremaine. And again, this is what I was saying in the deck profile. Like, Lady Tremaine is just not really great in these builds where you're not able to like deal with the opponent's board completely. I guess maybe it isn't too bad because like if I would have Mulan wiped and the opponent was on 1 card, then the Tremaine would have been really nice. But yeah, because I just don't make the right decisions here, I put myself in this situation. So both the Julietas run into the Elephant to deal 2 damage back onto the Elephant so that I can use the Mulan shift to finish it off and then wipe out the other 2 threats. Now the opponent has an Elephant. I have 2 Julietas, which are not queens, so they will not, or princesses, so they will not trigger the Sensor Core to gain me a lore. The opponent's on 3 cards. They use Elephant to take out one of my Julietas. And, you know, if they leave this other Julieta on board with 3 damage, this is another reason why Julieta is potentially good. If I have a Rapunzel, that's another draw 3. But the opponent plays a Pete, so you can kind of see what kind of cards they were sitting on in their hand. Pete and Pascal, so a little underwhelming. And I'm happy to see that because we only play Brawl as our action, so we don't really care about being floodgated there. We draw into a 1-drop Mulan, which at this point is underwhelming. And the Lady Tremaine that the opponent knows we have, because we revealed it off of the Sensor Core, the opponent is isolating themselves from the Tremaine play, right? That's why they play out the 1-drop Pascal, and they have the Pete, because they'd rather protect the Mim Elephant. So we activate Sensor Core, reveal the Queen Sensing Weakness, so, you know, good card advantage. It's just, again, sickening to see how many misplays I made in this match. It's like it's actually hard for me to watch this. Like, it's so bad. And then this is another reason why I just realized that Namari isn't very good. Not only the fact that it's uninkable, but by the time you drop Namari, your opponent's going to have an answer to it. So we quest with the Julieta, and we pass turn. We've got 2 Sensor Cores on board, and if this Namari survives, which I'm hoping that it does, because it doesn't get baboomed, but it can get Zeused. If the Namari survives, I gain 2 lore next turn. The opponent has the Elsa. Darn it. And then the Mim Elephant will take it out, because Mim Elephant is a tank, a 3/7 body, so it takes out the Namari, and that just put me so far behind. The Elsa is so good, guys. Oh my goodness. And what's funny is if they didn't have that Elsa in that situation, despite all of my misplays, I still could have won this game a lot quicker. Anyways, we draw into a brawl. So we have to brawl the Elsa, which doesn't feel great. We ink the Sensing Weakness, and then we play out the Tremaine to just slow the opponent down because they're on 15 now. So they're starting to threaten game. And the Tremaine is considered a queen character, which means we will gain 2 lore at the start of next turn if it survives. But if the opponent has any kind of sequence to gain lore, like goats, which we know Amethyst plays, we are going to lose this match this turn or next turn potentially. So start of their turn, they're going to use the elephant ability. And I tell them here, I think I'm like, yeah, the elephant can only move a max of 2. So the elephant had 3 damage from taking out the Namari. It moves 2 of it onto the Tremaine. They do indeed have the goat. They're going to play it and quest, go to 18, bounce with snake, go to 19, and now they have game next turn. I gain 2, go to 16 off of these sensor cores, but with only the Tremaine, I'm only going to be able to quest to 18, and I end up losing this game. So you can see like so many misplays, and it was still kind of a close game, which is kind of insane to me. But I don't know, maybe this, because it is Ruby into Steel, maybe it's a better matchup for me. But yeah, drawing this Mulan here isn't going to deal with the goat in hand, isn't going to deal with the snake that's ready on board. So it's just not enough. And yeah, this is why I'm going to be refining the deck. Anyways, if you made it this far in the video and you were able to sit through that cringy gameplay, thank you. Don't roast me too hard in the comments. Thank you again for watching though. Quantum is out.